Welcome back to another episode of Greek Speak, WSYC 88.7 FM from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. As always, I'm Andrew Mercier. This week, things are a little bit different as Luke Rainey is not in the studio this week, and he's not going to be here for a few weeks. But I'm excited to announce that we have a temporary co-host in Mr. Luke Hillegass. So, Luke, how's it going?
It's going pretty well. Thanks for having me, and I hope to be close to just as good as Luke. I know it's going to be difficult, but I'll give it my best shot here.
And this week we got a special guest. As always, we have special guests every Friday, but this one I feel is very, very special to me. And Miss Lindsey Foor. So, Lindsey, how's it going?
It's great. How's it going for you?
So, Lindsey, you are a sweetheart of Kappa Sigma. You are an alumni of Kappa Delta Phi Nas. You are now in your graduate program here at Shippensburg. So, kind of just give us a little brief introduction of yourself and, your story at Shippensburg so far.
Okay. So I graduated in May of 2024 with my undergraduate degree of Human Resource Management and Marketing Management. I joined Kappa Delta Phi NAS in spring of 2021. I became a sweetheart of Kappa Sigma in fall of 2023, and then I just started my grad program in July and getting my MBA, and I work in the I'm a graduate worker within the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life.
Yeah, so I know that the graduate program is pretty prestigious here at SHIP. There's not many of you. I believe that you live at Maury Hall, correct?
Mm-hmm.
That's where all the graduate students live?
For the most part, if you choose to live on campus and have a housing grad assistantship, you can do that's an option as well. But the lucky thing about my program is that it's all online. So if you choose to live at home and want to do that, you're more than welcome to do that as well.
So my question with Maury and with you guys being grad students and also with working within the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life, obviously with the other organizers, with the other dorms, you got to go home over fall break. Or actually, fall break you can stay. It's over Thanksgiving, winter break, spring break. I believe they close. Is that the same for Maury or no?
It's not the same. They don't require us to go home. They do require us to fill out a form just so they are aware that we're staying and that they can give us ID access so that way we can get to the building. But it's not required that we go home.
Cool. That was something I was very interested in.
So, while you were in Kappa Delta Phi NAS, what were your positions? What chairs did you hold? Stuff like that.
So while I was in KDPHI, I was treasurer for 1 year, and then I stepped in the role as vice president. So it definitely taught me a lot within leadership and how to navigate organizations like that.
Yeah, that actually leads me into my next question. Do you want to touch on, how leadership roles in, Greek life kind of helped you with where you are today, especially because you're in grad school and, you're getting close to maybe a full-time career. So if you want to touch on, like I said, what leadership did for you today.
It definitely taught me the basics of what you should look for within a job. So I know with me dealing with 20-year-olds, especially girls, all in one room, there's a lot of different personalities that you have to navigate. So for me, it taught me to always be patient, that not every person is the same. So within grad school, I got to take a class on organizational leadership, and it taught me a lot of things that we learned is through the leadership is that not everything's the same, that they're situation based. So I could relate all my experiences back to how I handled situations within the sorority. So I definitely am thankful for the leadership opportunities because it's something that I enjoy learning about and to continue my leadership skills.
Awesome. That's a good answer. Do you know right now what's next for you after you finish your grad program here at SHIP?
I'm on the job market. I really like HR. HR was kind of what I like to do, but now that I'm looking in leadership roles, I'm kind of switching back and forth what I want to do. But I definitely want to deal with people and to help people because that's like the biggest thing I like in life is to serve people. So I think don't really know what exactly job title I want to do, but I know what kind of work I want to do.
While we're on leadership, did you happen to have any, experience outside of your sorority during your time at SHIP with any leadership roles, if you want to touch on that, outside of Greek life, stuff like that?
Yeah, so while in undergrad, I was a peer anchor, so I helped first-year students within our first-year experience program. So they learned what Shippensburg was, so I helped navigate, basically the liaison. And then I was in student ambassadors, so I did that for a year. So I gave tours, open house admissions events, and then I stepped into a committee leader role. So I took a team on and basically showed them the ropes when they joined the organization.
So, obviously, being a peer anchor and then being a student ambassador is something that we've seen a few of our brothers do over time. Theo Campamanis, Connor Beck, to name two. Why did you do it? Like, were you, did you come into college, like, looking for something to do? Or, did you get approached by it or by someone to do it? So, like, what happened? How do you join those programs?
So it was basically connections, which connections are huge to me because it's all in who you know, and I know that some people don't believe that, but I fully believe it's all in who you know. So when I came into college, I was in COVID, so everything was online, masks, completely different than what it is today. But I wanted to be very involved. I was involved in high school, so it kind of transpired. But with COVID, it was kind of a barrier. But then I was approached by my peer anchor that said that I'd be a great fit. So the director of first year experience reached out and said, hey, would you be interested in becoming a peer anchor? So I jumped on board because I wanted to be involved. And then the director of first year experience reached out to the director of student ambassadors and said, hey, I think she'd be a great fit for orientation. So I did orientation for a summer, and then I jumped into student ambassadors full time and just managed both along with Greek life. So just wanted to do as much as I could.
Awesome. So obviously you are a Kappa Sigma sweetheart. When I joined in fall of 2023, that was the semester that you became a sweetheart. If you want to touch on that a little bit and, your experiences with that and why you chose to be a sweetheart for Kappa Sigma, and just everything that, you got to experience with that.
Yeah. So when I joined, we got to meet all the brothers within every fraternity on campus. And I just made connections with some of the Kappa Sigma brothers. So I started hanging around with them, became close friends. And then life got busy, classes got busy, and so I didn't really think about becoming a sweetheart. And then as the fraternity grew, I learned that I just knew all the brothers, and so I knew sweetheart was an option, and I wanted to be close and to continue meeting the brothers. All the alumni are awesome that we meet, so I knew that that was something I wanted to do, so I decided to run and just get close. And it's a brotherhood that I feel like protects me, and that if I have an issue, that they are willing to go hand and foot to help me out. So that's something why I wanted to become a sweetheart.
It's funny that you say, you met the guys and then like life got busy, and then eventually later down the road you ended up doing it, because I joined in spring of 2023, so the semester before Luke. I thought you were already a sweetheart. I think a lot of people did. And just because of how much you were around and everything like that, always just a smile on your face, always so kind and, willing to get to know everyone. That was definitely one of your number one qualities is, your kindness and willing to meet everyone. But I kind of want to touch back on how you said we were talking about ambassadors and stuff like that, and you talked about being involved in high school. This is always a question that we ask, but what was your high school experience like? What were you involved in? And ultimately, what led you to choosing Shippensburg University?
So in high school, I was involved. So I did FBLA, student council. I was vice president of, Students Against, why am I blanking on it? I was in SAD, Students Against Destructive Decisions. And then I was in NHS. I was the chaplain of that. I did FBLA. I was secretary of my class, so I did everything that I could to build that resume. And then the reason I chose Shippensburg was because my big sister actually came here. She got her degree in middle level education in math and science. And I knew a bunch of people here. I knew the College of Business was great, Shippensburg, so I just said, this is where I want to be for the next 4 years, and 5.
Yeah. Kind of going off that, did you, like, going into college, did you always envision yourself taking that 5th year? Or was that something that kind of, you know, let's say your junior, senior year came around, you're like, okay, maybe I'll get my master's, and then ultimately, what made you choose Shippensburg for your master's?
So I I was so done with school when I graduated. I always toyed the idea of going to grad school, but I was like, no, is that something I really want to do, or is that something I can do? But once I took a deep dive into what the grad program actually looked like, I've fallen back on connections. My student ambassador boss knew that the Career Center, where I'm currently the GA as well, said that they needed GA, like you should look into it. And so once I knew that was an opportunity, I was like, okay, I for sure can go. And once the applications and the job market wasn't really working out for me, I was like, yeah, this is something I can do. I'd be glad to stay another year. So that's how I chose Shift.
Yeah, kind of sounds like a match made in heaven, because ultimately you're going to come out on the other side of it with even more experience, you know, with a graduate, you know, not even a master's degree at this point. But can you kind of give a deep dive into, like, what each GA position is? So obviously you're the GA for the Career Center, just came from there actually, and then you're also the GA for the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life. So, like, what do you do for each? So I guess we'll start with the Career Center.
Yeah. So the Career Center, so I basically do the back-end stuff that not really many people see. So I do student appointments, so if someone needs a resume review, an appointment with the professional dress closet, I run those. And then I do the marketing, so if you see flyers on our socials, you'll see that I made some of those depending on the event that I am helping with. But I basically run the back end, make sure that everything's flowing and that the pro staff have what they need and that the career ambassadors have what they need. So yeah, that's the Career Center piece.
So obviously with being a GA for the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life, you were able to assist in the operation of the Greek Leaders Retreat, and I was able to attend that. So on the other side of it, I thought it went well, but on the other side of it, of somebody, you know, running the event and helping Bridget run the event, how do you think that went? And, you know, like, what benefits were you guys hoping that we would receive as actual Greek leaders?
Yeah, so we sent out a survey to all of the Greek leaders, so the executive boards on IFC and Panhell, and we basically asked, what do you all need to see within your organizations, and how can you best help your organizations thrive? Because as leaders, you're the ones that are running the show, and if your members aren't happy and you're not excelling as a leader, then your organization might not run as smoothly as we'd like to see within the office. So we sent out a survey basically asking what do they need, and then we assess from there, basically pulling in pro staff that can talk about what they need, creating different breakout sessions tailored to what the responses were.
Yeah, I mean, I thought the event was actually really beneficial. I know it had mixed opinions on how long it was going. It was an 8-hour event, so it was definitely an all-day thing. But I thought it was super beneficial, and I really did enjoy being able to see how other, you know, leaders from other organizations were taking it, and, you know, being able to talk to them for an entire day. Really, I feel like it did help us, like our reputation, everything regarding it. So. But yeah, I thought the event was really successful, and I just wanted to see what it was like on the other side of it.
To comment on that, it was really cool to see everyone kind of come together, because not many people interact with each other outside of their organizations. So to see everyone come together, have conversations and talk, it was kind of cool. That was really cool to see for me.
Alrighty, so we're going to take a brief break. Again, you're listening to WSYC, or Greek Speak on WSYC 88.7 FM from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, with Andrew Mercier and Luke Hillegass, with a special guest of Lindsey Foor.
101.7 FM from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, for engaging conversations about all things Greek life with Luke Rainey, Andrew Mercier, plus special guests every Friday at 10 a.m.
I'm running out of questions.
So yeah, kind of going off the topic of the Greek Leader Retreat, you actually held a individual workshop.
Mm-hmm.
How did that go into the planning? Obviously, the main people of the event were yourself, Sadie, Dr. Bridget Allen, and Colin Miller. So, were you approached for the topic, or was it your idea? Like, how did the ideas of all the workshops come to fruition, I guess is the best way to say it?
So the first workshop I did was situational leadership, which I talked on earlier. So basically, I had to do it at a grad program, but I talked about my class earlier. So I had a whole PowerPoint based on that. And like I told Luke, I basically talked about that my entire class, was how in Greek life, how I had to, situations were different. So when I was making the PowerPoint, I was talking to Bridget about it, and she thought that that was a great topic too. So she was like, hey, would you mind talking on that and kind of showing other people how that can relate to their Greek life experience? So that's how that one came into play. And then the second one I did was how to talk about Greek life to employers and on resumes, basically tying into the Career Center. It's kind of perfect that my job and both roles kind of play into each other. So it just kind of transitioned into that. And she said, you know how to talk about it, why don't you? So, and I don't mind. Public speaking doesn't bother me one bit, so that's how it came into play.
And I was actually able to be a part of your first breakout room, which was the situational leadership. And I will say that I went out of my way to go to that one, mainly because, you know, all of the breakout rooms were useful in their own ways, but that one, being a leader, I feel like relates to, you know, real life the most, because when there's different situations, I feel like not everybody knows how to handle themselves in certain situations, like I said, and, you know, having different ways to do it, like we learned in that breakout room, it was really beneficial, and I found myself using it a little bit day by day. So I do think that, you know, that situational leadership aspect of being a leader is very important. I feel like it's overlooked because everybody thinks that they can just use the same leadership for every single situation, which is just not the case. So yeah, like I said, I think it was a really beneficial breakout room.
I'm glad you found it beneficial.
All right, so kind of shifting the gears towards, like, your Greek experience. So you talked about being the treasurer and also being the vice president. What are the positions, the exec positions for KDPHI NAS?
Yeah, so we obviously have president, so typical presidential duties, vice president, we have treasurer, secretary, and then we have chaplain historian. So chaplain historian does, so at the beginning of every chapter we do an inspirational quote to kind of get us in the mood, getting ready for chapter, and then a historian creates a scrapbook of all the memories, so that way when we become alumni and come back and talk, we have documentation on it, so that's pretty cool. And then we have sergeant at arms that kind of keeps everyone in order and making sure that sisters are doing what they're supposed to be doing.
Yeah, so that's kind of like, sort of like us a little bit. So obviously your sergeant at arms would fall towards our grand procurator, being Mr. Justin Reese. I know we all love him, JR and HR, but you know, that's more of like a risk, like standards program that would be under him. And then, like, historian, that would be under me, being the Grandmaster Ceremonies or the second vice president. So kind of like, we're kind of on the same structure. But when did you end up running for vice president? Was that your senior year, junior year?
So we actually had someone step down, and I was approached. They were like, Lindsey, we know that you can take these leadership positions, no problem. Like, y'all have no problem stepping in. So I didn't have much on my plate senior year, and I was like, well, it's another leadership position, I can do it. So I decided to run, and they gave it to me. They elected me, so.
Yeah, and I'm sure you did a fantastic job.
Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how we are within an organization. A lot of the times, Obviously, it's our leaders that want to have the aspiration, want to have the motivation to run, but a lot of time, it's someone from the outside approaching them and saying, "Hey, I think you should do this." Luke's a perfect example. Hey, we think you should do this. And I remember this. I remember him approaching, talking to me about running for treasurer. And, before that, he was more so on, the goofier side. And, he was like, "Oh, I don't know if people are going to, believe in me." And I'm like, "Dude, just try." And I remember he came to my room like he did every day. Harley 330, legendary room. But, he read that speech to me. And honestly, I'll tell you straight up, it was probably the best speech I've ever read before. It was just it was the perfect amount, all the elements that it needed. And obviously, with you being the treasurer now, with future aspirations of being the president, I think you'd be a phenomenal president. And at this current point, you probably have my vote. But I do want to turn it over to you. I see you got a couple things to say.
Yeah, I appreciate those kind words. It really does mean a lot. And not to take the spotlight off of Lindsey or anything, but yeah, I definitely was a little goofy, and I really just wanted to find myself and find my role within Greek life and within the fraternity. And all it really took was, me talking to somebody and somebody telling me, "Hey man, I really do think you could be a leader." And I thought about it, and originally I turned it away. I was like, absolutely not. I want to keep being the same goofy self that I have been. And then you think about it, and you're like, it really could be something. And then here I am, still a treasurer, but definitely looking forward to possibly other avenues. But while we're on the treasurer route, you said that you served as a treasurer, and I know we've talked about this before previously, and we could definitely talk about it for hours. But do you want to touch a little bit on being a treasurer for your sorority, what it entailed, and some of the things that you did during your term, to make your term successful?
Yeah. So when I was treasurer, it was so I got in the spring, and then we do elections in the fall, and so it was a quick turnaround when I became treasurer. So I didn't really know. I knew the girls, but I didn't nearly have the relationships that I did towards the end of my time in KDPHI. But so it was a lot of learning the ropes, learning how the organization ran. The past treasurer gave me all the tools and resources that I ever needed, so it was smooth in that transition. But as far as learning how the girls interacted, because with any organizations, I'm sure every treasurer can tell you that when it comes to money, people act a little differently. So it's a lot of navigating how to handle refunds, how to handle chairs not killing their budget early on. So I know with me being a business major, I had a lot of financial stability because that's all we do is numbers. So to me, it made sense. But for the people that didn't really handle money and that they didn't see the value to it, they just kind of blew through it. And it's you had to have those tough conversations. And with me being so young in the sorority, that it was hard for me to learn how to adapt to those conversations that I had to have. Realizing that I had a life outside of KDPHI, and that some things that wasn't my top priority at the time to get it right away. That they would get it, don't get me wrong, but there's a lot of navigating and figuring out the challenges that come to being a treasurer, and I'm sure you see it too, so you know exactly where I'm coming from. But that definitely led into other leadership roles that I had. So when it came to vice president, it was so much easier because I had that background.
I know you mentioned, and it's a really good point that I think a lot of people don't think about, is being a business major and trying to relate business-like things. Like, just for an example, that I deal with every single day, like you mentioned, is trying to get other majors, because we have such a large array of majors, and that's for any organization, to understand the value of budgeting, because they don't do that, right? They with business, there's certain business-like decisions that you have to be made with any position, but more specifically in treasurer, like budgeting, and these chairs, sometimes they don't understand. So definitely trying to relay that message can be quite difficult. probably the biggest thing that, you know, is tough for me as treasurer is that there's 2 weeks with the due collection. And I know I can speak for every single treasurer when I say this, but the due collection, I've lost sleep over it, right? It gets tough. You're collecting for 50 guys, or in your case, I was just going to ask if you want to touch on that and what that process was like for your sorority and any hiccups that you faced with that, and then, you know, any things that you did to make the due collection process easier on yourself.
So, what was great about KDPHI is that we had enough money saved up from past treasurers that we had a buffer, so we always had that, so we never went over it. So if someone had financial troubles, because we were always respectful to the people that may not have had the cash right away to pay their dues, so we set up payment plans so they could choose. Our dues at the time were $290, so we divvied it up, so if they wanted to do once a month, they could do that. If they needed to do it twice a week, if they needed however payments that they could see feasible within getting it in, we could do that, and that's how it made it easy for them and for our organization to pay their dues on time.
It's funny you say the word payment plan, because it has actually become a joke in our organization where brothers like to text me constantly if they can get payment plans for the littlest of things, where at this point it is actually driving me insane. There are certain brothers that like to get under my skin more than others. So, but yeah, I definitely agree with all of those things. Payment plans can definitely be very useful, and yeah, the due collection period can be a headache if not done correctly, if not managed correctly. So it definitely takes a lot of leadership to get through these people, to explain to them how important paying their dues really is, because the chapter cannot function in the way that you need it to without these dues, and these dues promptly. So I definitely try to get through to all the guys to explain that to them. And, you know, we've kind of created a culture at this point where I don't really even have to worry about it that much anymore. The guys have gotten it in on time, just because I think we're starting to really stress the importance of it. So,
yeah. One point to that is that I was transparent too. So the girls in the organization never questioned where the budget was going. I gave it to them up front. I had a whole Google spreadsheet on it, where the money was coming in, how it was going out, where resources were allocated. So definitely that helps too, is to be transparent with the girls, and so they understand why, like you said, why it's important to get your dues in.
Yeah. I mean, Luke didn't want to say his name, but I'm going to say shout out Mike Castle. I'm also going to ask for a payment plan at the sub shop. I don't know if I can pay for my sub today. But, yeah, no. You know, that's something that we really strive ourselves with is, and that's something I tell in terms of recruitment. And that's something I want to talk about in the back half of the show after we come back from break is recruitment. But one thing I stress is the importance of, like, hey, we get it. You know, people go through stuff. We will work with you.
Yeah. Like,
it's okay. And I think that saves a lot of people, like, because, you know, obviously having to pay pay dues can be stressful. Anyone paying bills is stressful. Yeah. I hate when I get the text that my phone bill got taken out. $64 a month. A lot of money in my books. But I don't know. I just, like, that stresses me out. And, like, I'll call my mom, and I'll be like, Mom, I don't have any money. And she's like, you're lying. With all that stuff. But we are going to take a break. Again, you're listening to Greek Speak on WSYC 88.7 FM from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania. Our special guest today is Lindsey Foor, and your co-hosts are Luke Hillegass and Andrew Mercier. So we will see you on the back half of the show.
My name is Ariel. When I arrived in the U.S. at 19, I struggled to find job opportunities without my high school diploma. My entire life changed when I took a chance and got my high school diploma at age 22. Everything I have, my education, my career, my marriage, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and my teachers. They were
She's
with me
listening.
every step of the way, helping with my English and math, making sure I push through all the challenges.
What do you want us to ask them?
Ariel, your success proves that what I'm doing as a teacher has real meaning.
mention them, but
It was an honor helping you achieve your greatness. Now you're helping others achieve theirs. It inspires me.
Education was the key that will unlock all my opportunities.
When you graduate, they graduate. Find free and supportive adult education centers near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
So as I was talking about recruitment, I know a lot of people like to make jokes about me and say that like I get all excited around recruitment season, but I mean, with my job being the vice president of membership development and recruitment being underneath me, it's kind of my job. I gotta do what I gotta do. And Luke does a great job at helping me out. We have a great team. We have 8 wonderful gentlemen this semester. Each and every one of them I see great futures. Joe Ryan, you're a goat. Sorry, I don't know your first name that came up. But obviously you were the treasurer and vice president. So you have experience with being on the e-board and, in terms of recruitment. We've had Aubrey on, the chapter president, and we've also had Haley and Celia. So we've talked to a few of your sisters about recruitment and all of that. But how would you say, you best went through recruitment? Did you come up with any strategies on how to go through it? Because you were still an active sister in the spring where you got, I believe, 13 girls.
yeah.
That was absolutely incredible. But what was the best way that you persevered through recruitment each season?
Yeah, so the running joke in my sorority, like you talk about running jokes, is that I never saw a formal recruitment, which is wild to say for the 3 years I was in there. My sophomore year, I got COVID, so I had to miss recruitment, and then I traveled to California my junior year, and then my senior year we did partial recruitment, but I was still very active in the selection process. So my junior year, I was on a plane, and our sorority was arguing about recruitment and the girls, and I said, we need to stop doing that. So I very advocated for the girls that we were getting. So I think just advocating for the girls, not what you want, because they are the future of your organization. So my best strategy was to be open. I like to be open and positive and very bubbly to everyone I meet. I don't like to go with a bad attitude to any conversation that I have. So within those conversations in recruitment, I think just showing your authentic self, because I know people like to shut down and try to put a face on within recruitment. And that's not transparency. The girls are going to find out anyway. So if you're already going on a bad foot, I don't think that's a true representation of what your organization is. So I guess to answer your question, for my strategy, it was just to keep an open mind and to see, put my best foot forward and try and envision what they would be like in the organization and where they could go. Because I know for me, that's what the girls did when they saw me coming in. So that was just what I tried to do.
Yeah, going off that, kind of one more thing for the leadership side of things, and then we'll switch off for now. But you kind of touched on it, but I want to, kind of hone in on this a little bit more. Something that I really believe in is getting my chapter to buy into the executive board's vision and what we see for the chapter. And like I said, you did kind of touch on that a little bit, but do you want to go back on that and just stress the importance of what you guys saw, as the vision for your sorority and how you got your sisters to buy into that?
I think for me, and hopefully my sisters agree with me. If they don't, well, this is just how I view it. But I was very timid when I entered college, which is very hard for people to imagine that have met me later in college. I was timid. I was very quiet. Well, I wasn't quiet. I still talked to everyone. But I was quiet in the aspect of not speaking out for myself. And then it got to a point where I realized I had to advocate for myself, be truthful in what I believed in. So when people started to see that I'd become more vocal, I'd be like, no, I don't think that's right, or yeah, I think we should do that. Sisters really saw that. And so once sisters saw that I was okay speaking on it and that I was okay saying what I believed to be true and what I believed would work, they started to follow my lead. They became more vocal. They became to say what they thought. And so I think if you get someone to stand out and to be the voice that other people need that don't really have the voice or haven't found it yet, I'm going to pick on my G little. She's very timid and quiet and doesn't really speak out, but I think she can go very far if she starts to find her voice and starts to speak out to what she thinks would benefit the organization.
I mean, yeah, that's a great point, and something I kind of picked up from you there is that you led by example, and that's something that I like to do, and I think needs to be done, and I like to stress the importance of it to the other guys on e-board, because if you're not going to do something, or you're not going to advocate for somebody to do something, they're not going to do it. So
Absolutely.
Finding a way to get everybody behind you, especially in a leadership position, I feel like is very important. I feel like leading by example is easily one of the best ways that you can accomplish that. But kind of switching off this point, obviously you have been in the sorority, or you were in the sorority for 3 years, you said?
Yep.
And then you were a sweetheart in fall of 2023, and then were around the fraternity for longer than that. So if you want to touch a little bit on the connections that you were able to, make within not only your sorority, but the Kappa Sigma as well. And, obviously we have both seen a lot of graduating classes go out and people come in. So if you want to talk about some of the people that left that you made a connection with, or some of the people that come in that you've made a connection with.
Yeah, so my big, Liv Faenza, well, she's Liv Myers now, she got married, but when I got her as my big, she was Liv Faenza. But, so she was actually what convinced me to join KDPHI. So when my sister was joining, they were on a Zoom call, and Liv sat down with me and explained all the benefits that she's had to the organization, all the people that she's met. I don't think I would have met half the people I did if I wouldn't have joined Greek life, so I'm very thankful for the people that I've met along the way. But she actually married a Kappa Sig alum, Drake Myers. So those are two of the biggest influential people for me. My sister was also in KDPHI. My biological big sister, McKenna. So those are two people that really had me join KDPHI. Ethan Cernicki is a brother of yours, and JJ Centobean. So those are two of my best friends. We go to concerts all the time, so I still hang out with them. So definitely miss them, miss the things we would get into, but those are people, alumni connections, the people you meet along the way, are some of the people that you'll want to get to know and have connections after post-graduation.
Yeah, so that's something that I really hit on in terms of my recruitment process for new guys, and then within the organization is the level of connections. I talk about the connections that you can make in the now or the present, and then I talk about the future.
Yeah.
So I talk about the connections you can make within your organization. So obviously you talked about your great connection with Liv, and then your sister McKenna, and then obviously your little correct?
Yep.
So these connections that you have is great, but then it can also help you out in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny, we had an alumni presentation a few years ago, and one of the guys that came back, he was talking about how he was at an Army base, and he was at a gas station at the Army base, and the guy pulled up next to him in a car, and they started talking, and then all of a sudden he looks down, and he had a Kappa Sig ring on it, ring on his finger. And then the guys connected, and then, they still talk to this day.
Yeah.
And it was so random because they just met at an Army military base gas station.
Yeah.
But, the connection of Kappa Sigma goes so strong. And, I see that today because, Ethan and JJ, they were really big influences in my life. They still are to this day. JJ was the former treasurer before Luke.
Yeah.
Ethan was never on exec board, but he did a lot of things for the organization, was a great historian. Also just great friends to me, just kind of, really getting me used to it. I remember it was my freshman year when I was going through my new member ed process. It was me, Mike Burrows, my big, Jay Corwell, and Ethan, and we all went down to Myrtle Beach. And that's when I really was I made the right decision. I'm happy. Because, those guys were, they were just like me. We all just went down, we played Madden, we played, just played a bunch of games, and it was so much fun. And, I wouldn't trade it for trading for anything in the world. But obviously they're on to bigger things as well. I mean, Ethan's working a full-time job. We got JJ pursuing his master's at Villanova University. Mm-hmm. So obviously time passes and everything. That's sad, but those connections don't ever go away. Mm-hmm. And that's another thing that I talk about with not just the recent alumni, but with our our older alumni like Don Edmondson. It's been a huge help for everyone. Him and Luke, I swear they've had 5 meetings in the last week. Don, you're always at the chapter house. It's always a pleasure. But, Don's really done a lot for me. Like, anytime I throw a post up on LinkedIn, I'll copy the post and I'll send it to Don. And then he'll be like, I'll be like, hey, what do you think? Yeah. And then he'll give me some, some critiques, and I'll change it and I'll throw it up. Yeah. Building a LinkedIn presence my LinkedIn presence isn't possible without Don or any of the other organization or any of the other alumni, I should say. That's something that we really stress, is building a strong LinkedIn presence and building a strong resume. But I see Luke getting up. He looked all excited, so I'll let him talk.
Yeah, so as Andrew was talking there, I kind of thought of something here. You said that, you work for the Career Center, and you did a presentation at Greek Leaders Retreat regarding Greek life in a career. Do you want to talk about just a little bit how, important as an employer, how important it would be to see that leadership on a resume from Greek life, and if that means anything at all, and if certain, not positions, but certain things, aspects of it are more important than others, if you want to touch on that a little bit.
Yeah, so like I said, so if someone, bringing back the point to Drew, that two Kappa Sigma brothers met in the gas station parking lot on an Army base. So I think if you put your Greek life experience on your resume, an employer might see that and actually gravitate towards it, and that you can spark a great conversation for it. So, and not only that, it also shows the skills that you employ, so they can see the skills that you're gaining and that what you're building as a leader and how you can transpire that to the job and the role that you're going to do. I think it's huge to put on a resume. We always say they're resume builders, so the more you can do in the organization, the more things that you can talk about will definitely help you in an interview that can land you the job.
So I actually have a question. I think about a year ago, when I was going through, it was about a year and a half, 2 years ago, when I was going through my new member education process, an alumni, I can't remember which one, told me that if I were to wear Kappa Sigma socks, under my dress pants, and just show them just a little bit, that I would be more likely to get hired by an employer. Is this true at all? Do you know if that helps?
Well, I'm sure there's a statistic on it, but I don't really know. But I think it all depends on the employer. So I know some people there's a known stigma to Greek life, so I think some people, you have to be cautious about who you're talking to, I think, in the beginning, just because you might have an automatic bias against you just because you're in Greek life, so I think you have to be wary of that. But I think if you do, there could be a high chance that something happened if they know Greek life, if they understand it and they are all for it. I think that alumni was correct in that it could have a higher chance of you getting employed and get the job.
Yeah, I like that you brought up the stigma, and I do think that, there could be a potential bias, but I definitely think that the benefits of, being in Greek life and the, employer seeing that you were in Greek life, depending on the organization, I definitely think the benefits outweigh the negatives. Oh, yeah. But, that's something I definitely have been thinking about a lot, because I am about to be a senior and looking for full-time internships and looking for jobs post-graduation, so that's definitely something I have been thinking about nonstop, is how to display that I am in Greek life, that I'm in Kappa Sigma, all my roles that I serve on IFC, as the fundraising chair, all this stuff that I am just trying to figure out how to blend into my resume and my LinkedIn and all that fun stuff. So yeah, it's definitely a balancing act, and I'm trying not to do it too much, but yeah.
Yeah, so we are going to take a brief break as we're getting close to the end of the show. Obviously, it's been a great time. So once we come back from break, I want to change it up. I want you to ask us some questions, all right?
Okay.
All righty.
Yeah.
Listen to Greek Speak on WSYC 88.7 FM from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, for engaging conversations about all things Greek life with Luke Rainey, Andrew Mercier, plus special guests every Friday at 10 a.m.
So as I was saying, I know I kind of put you on the spot, Lindsay, but as we're running out of time here, I want you to ask us some questions.
Yeah.
So, what do you got for me?
So, actually, I was one of the ones on the second annual Myrtle Beach trip last year for spring break. And you were along with me. So, you talked a lot about because you were in the running for GMC. That's something you wanted to do. You hadn't quite got it yet, but you told me about the aspirations that you had within the role and how you wanted to change Kappa Sigma. So, how has that been going? Have you been successful in some of the things that you had in mind? And how does your fraternity support you in that aspect?
Well, I first want to give credit to my 4 counterparts on the executive board, being Luke Hillegass, Justin Reese, Jonathan Hinderleiter, shout out, he'll be the guest next week, and Alexander Staub. They all support me every single day. And the thing that I really like is a few weeks ago, I made a mistake. And they brought me in, and we talked. And, I really I was upset in the moment, but I really appreciate it now because it made me realize, hey, they're just trying to do this for the betterment of me so that I become better. Because I've been very open with them. Mm-hmm. Before serving on the executive board here, it's okay, we'll let it play. Before serving on the board here, I had never really held an official leadership position. I've been group committee leaders or something like that, within high school and stuff, but nothing where I was leading 50 men. So it's definitely been a lot, but it's been a whole lot of fun. I think we've absolutely killed it in terms of recruitment.
For sure.
We're sitting at, counting on new members, it'd be 59. Which is absolutely incredible because we had 20 guys when I joined back in the spring of 2023. And, that seems like ages ago. I feel like a dinosaur. But
I'm talking about when I joined, what you guys were like.
But, it's just been a lot of fun. And, I hope to accomplish more. And I plan to run again. And I plan to build on the things that I've done this year. And hopefully do a great job next year and set up the organization for once I graduate.
You're doing a great job. Very proud of what you're doing.
Hey, Lindsay, do you have any questions for me before we end here?
Mr. IFC.
Oh, yeah.
So, I know you talk a lot about treasurer, but what does IFC look like for you, and how has that changed you within the organization, but also as, your personality? Because I know you said that you were the goofy guy, which, going off of that, I'm still the goofy, fun person I was, but I know when to be a leader and when to be my fun self. You can still be both, so I want to know, how has IFC changed you as your leader role within the treasurer within Kappa Sigma, and how you interact with the Office of Fraternity and Sorority Life?
Yeah, I'll split that up into 2 questions, kind of. I'll answer the IFC question, and then I'll kind of go into, you asked it a little bit, but how to lead as that fun, goofy guy, and when to lock in. So to answer the first question, like you said, I serve on the Interfraternity Council here at Shippensburg. I am the fundraising and community service chair, and it's been great so far. So basically, what happens is everybody, one member from, or however many members, there's 2 of Kappa Sigmas, me and Theo, serve. He's the DEI chair, and then there is a few PyLam guys, there's a few, there's one PSK guy, and then there's a Theta Xi guy. Am I forgetting any? I hope I'm not forgetting anybody. But yeah, so basically it has helped a lot, you know, in the short time that I have been on it, because it allows me to see different perspectives of different organizations and allows me to have a platform to not only elevate Kappa Sigma, but to elevate Greek life as a whole, right? I can give my 2 cents, and I definitely have my 2 cents most of the time, on where we can improve and on where IFC and Greek life as a whole can improve. And there definitely is an avenue to improve Pan-Health too. So being able to, you know, have my time to share my thoughts and, you know, like I said, be able to see the different perspectives of all the organizations definitely helps a lot, because then I can bring that back to my chapter. And, you know, something I've been trying to do is just eliminate the negative talk regarding other organizations, definitely within my organization, because it just doesn't help Greek life at all. So I wouldn't have been able to see that if I wasn't on IFC. So just being able to see how the other groups act, they're in the same boat as us. They're trying to do the same thing. So just supporting them because they support us, it really does go a long way. And then to answer the second part there, so like I said, I was definitely much goofier when I first joined, and you know, something coming along with a leadership role is just knowing when to lock in and get a task done. And then as long as your chapter understands that, hey, like, you know, I can be fun when I want to be, but then when I say it's time to, you know, go, it's time to go, and the joke's got to stop sometimes. So as long as they understand that, and as long as they see my vision, like I talked about earlier, that, you know, when I am done being goofy and it's time to get something done, it's time to get something done. And I think all the guys are really starting to grasp that and respect my decisions 99% of the time. So yeah, definitely got to know when it's time to lock in and when it's time to make decisions and when it's time to go, like I said.
That's a really great point. Thank you.
And we thank you so much, Lindsey. I know we've been talking about getting you on the show for a long, long time. You know, it's just never really found a time until today. You're always like in Las Vegas or something. You're like Hindi from last year when he was like in India or something. But obviously, it's been a great show. I hope you had fun, because Luke and I had fun. But tune in next week for Greek Speak on 88.7 FM from Shippensburg, Pennsylvania, as we have Jonathan Hinderlater, the chapter president from Kappa Sigma. I know I've talked about not having any more Kappa Sigmas on here, but he's the last one. He's the last exec member. Well, I guess Alex. But we'll get Alex on here at some point. But
he's got a lot of good things.
He's got a lot of good things to say. But Hindi, we're really excited for you. But for everyone listening, thank you so much for watching, and we will see you later.